Hi everybody, this is Michael Bagby. I'm the Chief Business Officer and founder at Supply Chain Junction. And today I'm really excited to have Jan Leperon from Manhattan Associates with me. And the reason I'm excited to have Jan is because I've been following Jan and his journey to demystify and help people with order management systems for several years now. And he's a great industry expert. And recently, Jan, you published several articles, but the one that I really wanted to talk to you about today was an infographic where you're trying to explain the roles and capabilities of an order management system. And that really caught my eye because it's really a simple way to, I guess, help answer the question that a lot of companies ask. So could you maybe just take me through why you did that? And, you know, what's the core problem that we're trying to help so many of your customers and prospective customers solve?
Sure. Hey, Michael. So, I've been in this business for 10 plus years now, and then OMS have been implemented by a lot of retailers all this time. But I've seen really a great acceleration these last 2 years, and even this year, obviously, with the pandemic, there's been a lot of noise and lots of talkings about the OMS. But what I realized is that decision makers in retail sometimes still have difficulties to understand where an OMS really fits in their architecture. They also sometimes do not realize what are all the capabilities that a system like an order management can provide them. So I thought this infographic could help them answer these types of questions in a visual and simple way. The role of an OMS is really to sit at the center of the retail landscape. So I wanted to highlight that while it's there very central in its nature, it's also here to enable and smoothen the connection between systems by breaking silos, which is really what it is meant for. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this infographic is the capabilities, mention the capabilities. An OMS can do a lot of things, but you could see it as a toolbox, a set of capabilities that you can pick up from to get started with a foundation of an omni-channel solution. And then over time, add up to it by adding extended capabilities, as I have called them on that infographic. So it's really a journey, getting started with a system in the central, establishing a foundation, and from there add to it and respond to also the changing business requirements over time.
That's great. I mean, it really was a really simple graphic. So thank you so much for doing that. It's really helpful. Well, we're going to reuse that a lot. I mean, so, you know, you sort of explain a little bit of why you did this, but I mean, maybe could you just give us a couple of practical examples of how you've seen this deployed, you know, with your customers, and, you know, I guess how they benefited from this?
Sure. So I think over the years, I have realized that an order management system is actually never a one-size-fits-all solution. So every company will have a different landscape, a different history, different sets of requirements to fulfill. So I think from that perspective, order management system can be implemented in a lot of different ways. I think the one key thing to have in mind is that unlike ERPs and other enterprise systems which have a pretty static configuration, the OMS is precisely designed to actually offer agility and evolve over time with new set of capabilities. That's the usual way to approach this. So establishing what I would call the foundation. So a first set of capabilities to get started, and then over time define with business what should be the next priority, and basically use the order management system to make all this happen. I've got a customer in Europe who recently implemented this solution. So I think they're a pretty good example of how retailers usually approach it. they wanted to solve a few problems and so a few benefits in the UMS. The first thing they were after is to increase online sales by unifying inventory across their warehouses, stores. So that was one of the key requirements. And also they wanted their store associates to use a single application to basically execute on the omni-channel services that they were about to offer to their customers. So they started with a pretty simple ship from store initiative, tactical project, if you will, to get started, and they already have a long roadmap of additional capabilities to carry on with.
Okay, no, that's great. I mean, you know, order management often sounds like a very complex and challenging program because it's at the heart of, I guess, you know, not only execution, but flexibility and agility for many businesses. But is it that complex? I mean, how long does it typically take, you know, for an order management project?
Right. So obviously this would depend on the scope, and every retailer would have a different approach to that. But what I see as a success factor is really to get started with a first set of capabilities to pilot. So typically it could take 2 to 3 months. We've done it faster to really, let's say, put the OMS in the landscape, make it start fulfilling a first type of order, offering first set of capabilities related to in-store, for example, ship from store, click and collect, and really get started with the pilot on this type of capabilities. And after that, you can always expand your scope, and that's what most retailers are doing. I think one of the key success factors is to really consider this in a progressive manner. So look at what are all the incremental capabilities that the business wants to establish and enable over time. So the list is ever growing. So get started with the foundation and then basically have a system in place that will allow you to build upon that. So that's pretty common, and I think one common pattern of all the retailers that I've worked with recently.
Yeah, so I mean, that's I think something we hear quite commonly across the industry, right? So, you know, you mentioned about getting the foundation in place. So once that is in place, what is the typical next thing that a retailer will do? So they're up and running in 2 or 3 months, right? They've got enterprise visibility.
Absolutely.
Now
right.
what?
Yeah, exactly. So actually what I realized is that the toughest part is for the business team to actually decide what should be the next capability. They have a lot of ideas. They need to react quickly to how the market evolves, what the customer requests. So establishing the list of priorities and what should come next is sometimes the biggest struggle. But indeed, there's always a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, per my experience. And one example that I could mention is one of our retailers has actually implemented the OMS in a simple way with enabling the store visibility and adding to that the warehouse stock, a dedicated warehouse for e-commerce. And now the next step that they are envisioning is to actually make a better use of the OMS by expanding the sources of inventory that the OMS is going to look at. So they decided to add to it the brick and mortar warehouse, you know, the warehouse that is in charge of fulfilling and replenishing their stores. So adding this visibility to it, as well as what they call inventory in transit. So inventory that's being delivered between the locations. So it's actually a source of stock that they can add to it and make the direct-to-consumer fulfillment use, you know, as part of the respond to customer need. So that could be a typical phase 2, kind of omni-stock initiative, if you will. Another typical way to expand the capabilities of an OMS is to look at the customer service capabilities. So now that you have a system in place that manages orders, regardless of their channels, you usually have the requirement to actually add more service to the customer, being able to modify an order, to capture a return or an exchange, and even to manage the payment lifecycle, which is another great capability of the OMS. So that typically can be a phase 2 of such a project, you know, starting simple with the enabling ship from store and then moving on to the more those areas of customer service.
Okay, no,
What
please go
maybe
on.
one last example that could mention is the adding new selling channels. For example, you could start with online, and then maybe you want to add the store to web, as we call it, so ordering in store, or another typical use case is adding the marketplaces. A lot of retailers would also sell their products on external marketplaces, so the OMS can really help there by also be the source of the availability of products to those channels.
Okay. No, there's a lot to think about there for next steps, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I was actually listening this morning to a podcast about some Black Friday sales statistics, this being just shortly after Black Friday. And of course, the pandemic has changed, I guess, pretty much the way everybody thinks about buying, whatever it is that they need to buy. So, what have you seen across the customer base and the newer types of questions that you're getting asked, based on, I guess, how the world's buying patterns have now changed from less in store to more, whether it be, I don't know how we best describe it nowadays, but let's just call it not in store.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the pandemic has changed everything and has accelerated all this so much. We are amazed by the stories that we're hearing from our retailers around the world, how really, demonstrate resilience on the way that they've approached this and the way that they carried on with their projects, and where they accelerated on some of the omni-channel initiatives. Some of them had implemented or started implementing their OMS for some time, but we saw, especially in the springtime, a lot of those initiatives to accelerate on click and collect, store appointments, curbside pickup, and the list is so long. I could also think about those stores being closed and inventory. Think about the inventory that was trapped in those stores for so long. So I think those retailers using ship from store really had that secret weapon to actually be able to leverage those units stuck in stores to serve online customers thanks to ship from stores. So it was really something that we saw happen. I could mention that jewelry retailer, Kendra Scott, they were on an OMS journey already, but they had not planned to implement ship from store just yet. And so what they did back in April is to actually enable this service or this capability rather in just 10 business days. So from the first day of conception to the go live, just 10 business days to basically continue selling, because their warehouse was going to close for administrative reasons. So they had to use other sources of stock. So their stores were really the perfect solution. So ship from store was really of great help, and I think a lot of retailers are now seeing these micro fulfillment centers. Stores are as many warehouses basically as a great help for that matter. Another example I have in mind is that beauty retailer, which also adjusted their strategy during the pandemic. They were already doing ship from store in a number of stores to complement the online inventory visibility. But what they decided to do is turn a number of their stores into what they call mini hubs. So really see those as strategic fulfillment locations, which they would position closer to the customer demand, which were not so easy to serve from the central DC. So overnight, thanks to an OMS configuration change, they increased the capacity of those stores to something I believe close to 100 orders per store and per day. And they also increased their staff to fulfill those orders. But that's another good example, I think, of what the pandemic has provided, the additional capabilities that were added during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the kind of flexibility and agility, and I guess the speed that these retailers and other wholesalers have been able to implement changes to support their customer needs. It's quite amazing. And I guess, Jan, that journey is going to continue into the future, right? From capabilities of the solution, but capabilities are one thing. It's also around helping the customers to get the most out of the solution. So How do you see that sort of panning out in the next sort of 6, 12, 18 months?
Right. Yeah, I think I really like working in the OMS space because there's so much innovation happening in that area. Every quarter we see new things added to the capabilities list. I think in 2021 I would expect retailers to expand their usage of the OMS in a few key areas. The first thing, as you were mentioning, is looking at the service and how to better engage with customers from a store perspective. I think the store associates really need to have a better visibility on the customer. So I think the retailers we are going to request more and more for their store associates to have the complete 360 visibility on the customer. Who is that customer? What's his or her history with the brand? What's their preferences? What's their how many of the items have they purchased before? So all those insights which will allow the store associates to better serve the customer and also personalizing the experience. So I think that will be a key area where OMS solutions will evolve in the future. Another one is basically for stores still to be able to increase their sales through that better knowledge of the customer. Sometimes retailers refer to that as endless aisle. So the unit, the size, the product that the customer is looking for might not be available at this time in the store. So the OMS is here to help provide that global inventory visibility. Where the item might be located in another store, in the warehouse. Well, you give that visibility to the store associate, and they can basically increase their sale and also better serve the customer. And perhaps one third and one last area where definitely see that the OMS will continue helping retailers. It's all about how they interact with the customer, the different channels, emails, chat, social media. So all those channels which the customer are using, to communicate with their friends, they want also to use them to interact with their favorite brands. So definitely, I think retailers will expand on those capabilities. And self-service also is something where we see a lot of potential growth among our retailers. The younger generation in particular, they like to be in the driver's seat as far as post-purchase activities are concerned. They want to be able to decide when they want to return a product, which maybe exchange they want to perform, have a better view on their shipment tracking. So in the past, sometimes you needed to call a contact center, maybe wait for a few minutes until your call is taken. So I think the younger generations now want to have everything in their hands and on their mobile phone. On an app. So that's, I think, another area where we will see the OMS develop in the future, as well as what we call pay by link, which is basically also down along those lines, or allowing the customer to take control. It is a way for them to basically finalize a payment or enter an alternative payment method whenever they need to, which will open possibilities for new selling channels like social selling, and we were discussing before the selling from the store, endless aisle. So that could be a use case for the customer to finalize a sale, whether they were physically in that store making the purchase, or maybe the store associate was in a video call, live streaming with the customer, demonstrating the product. So lots of possibilities and exciting time, I think, ahead for us in the OMS space.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it, Jan. I mean, I guess, so thank you so much for sharing this information with me and our audience today. There's a lot of exciting things for the future, a lot of opportunities, obviously with the acceleration to digital and, less people going into stores. This is going to become more and more prevalent, and more and more companies are going to want to learn about this. So, thank you so much for all of the articles you've been posting, helping everybody to be educated around the topic and the benefits of the topic. And yeah, looking forward to talking to you again in the future and learning more and more about how we can all help our customers to have better experiences and obtain the goods that they need. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Have a great day.
Take care.